So glad that you're here. Would you go ahead and introduce yourselves and tell us what you do?
Thank you, Lucille. Hi to everybody here. I'm Gail from Barbados, and I love to say that because in the Caribbean things could be a little different than in the US. I'm a training consultant, and interestingly enough, as I was talking to Lucille, this question comes up when I survey my clients and their teams because they feel that it's their boss's job to make them happy. And then out of that conversation, you get, oh, so is it your spouse's job to make you happy? So I've been having this conversation for a while. I'm happy that Lucille has invited me. And of course, as a divorcee, I can add my 2 cents into the conversation as well.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for that. And yes, it does go across the board. It doesn't have to be just for couples. It can be, like you said, in the job environment because we all have what? Expectations. And we come to the table with our expectations, and they may be realistic and they may not be. But the subject comes up, is it my spouse's job to make me happy? And so I'm going to just jump out here and say, no, I don't think it's my spouse's job to make me happy. But, I kind of feel like maybe you ladies may be on that same train. So if I take the devil's advocate way of saying it, suppose it is my spouse's job to make me happy. If he loves me, he should want to make me happy. Now, I don't know how he's going to do it, but it's up to him to figure out. He's around me every day. He sees me. We talk. He should just know what makes me happy. Heather, give me your thoughts.
Well, I'm thinking my spouse isn't a mind reader, so unless we've had that conversation.
He's not?
I've actually, and this to me should come up in premarital, like way before you guys ever get married, so you guys understand how each other tick, what each other think, what the needs are, what expectations you have around marriage, what expectations you have around sex. Like, how many times do you think that we should be having sex in the bedroom? Because what I think might be different from what my husband thinks. And are we even a good fit to get married? Are we a good fit? But maybe we both need to compromise. So there's a lot with this. And you know what, Lucille, I love this question because I think Jerry Maguire, that movie, really effed up a lot of women because, that whole line of "you complete me" really got into people's heads, especially women. Yes. And so we came out here looking for someone to complete us, thinking that that is the goal of a committed relationship, when that's not. Like, God literally created us as individual, unique beings, and we should learn how to fulfill our own needs all by ourselves, fill up our empty cups, do all the inner work that's required for us to feel confident, for us to feel love towards ourselves all by ourselves. And then if we have a partner that comes in, they can be, the cherry on the top, if you will. And if they do give us compliments, amazing. But it's not like we're looking towards them to actually receive what we can just give to ourselves. And then beyond that, in the spiritual sense, we can even go to God because he's the one that made us. And so he knows what we need already, even before we ask it. And so, we can actually go to him to help us with feeling love, getting that unconditional love that, doesn't always come from a human relationship. So I'll pause there and we'll pass it back to you, Lucille.
Oh, fantastic. I love what you said, and I'm going to comment on it in a few minutes. Gail, go ahead and weigh in. Give me your thoughts.
So my personal experience, Heather, with marriage is that I'd have to say yes. I did expect my spouse to make me happy. After all, I was marrying him. He should have been lucky that he was getting me. And we used to have a lot of discussions. And I know that sometimes he would say, "But can't you just be happy?" And then that would lead into a whole lot of arguing. And I think sometimes marriage is a transition, and you learn and grow together. Because sometimes you get married and you don't have all of the guidelines or benchmarks that you need to do better and be better, especially together. And like for me with this question, is it your spouse's job to make you happy? I would say no, but I do believe that your spouse, if they love you, and it's not that it's their job, but they should want to make you feel loved. I equated feeling loved with happiness. And if you love somebody, it's not a chore. You go all out to show that you love them. And if I use Lucille and her husband as an example, like if he saw her doing something and he felt she needed help, she wouldn't even have to ask. So it's not that he was a mind reader, but he loved her so much he wanted to show her how much he loved her. But it's getting to that place and not feeling, as though you have a right to your husband or your wife showing you happiness, if that makes sense.
Oh, I love that. Now, just to be transparent, in my early years of marriage, that's the way I felt. I felt like he should see it. He should know I'm a very communicative. I talk a lot. And so I would tell him. It wasn't that he had to necessarily read my mind, but I felt like, yeah, he should complete me. I fell into that trap too. I wanted the Disney ending where we ride off into the sunset and hold hands. And I see you laughing, Heather. Have a live happily ever after. I was looking.
They never show what happens after the kiss. That I think that's what messes up too, Lucille. Like we are so in. Like I love Hallmark movies, you guys. I cannot tell you how many movies I watched during the Christmas season on Hallmark, and every time they're like, oh, la la la, all the music at the end, and it's like snowing on their faces, and they're getting kissing each other, and and then they never show like the hard life stuff afterwards, like that. I don't think that's right. I feel like they need to have a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you, Heather. And I was telling Lucille, when Cinderella finds her prince or Snow White, or like when these people get married and live happily ever after, who's doing the dishes? Who's carrying out the garbage? Like I don't follow. I don't follow. Like where's the real stuff?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And you bring up a point, Gail. When I was dating my husband and his dad, they used to go to the farm out in the country. It's probably about 30 or 40 minutes from where we live. And I rode out there with him a couple of times when we were dating. Now, I don't like farm life. Animals stink. That is not me. But I was happy to ride with him. But when we got married and I got to do washing and cleaning and stuff, I'm not trying to go out there. So there were things that needed to, that happened before we got married that just weren't going to work after we got married and had to get into the day-to-day. I see you laughing, Karen, after we got into the day-to-day of what we had to do. But I want to go back a minute to Heather, what you said earlier. You said something about fill up your cup, filling up your own cup. Now, I thought of an analogy because as I was working out on the treadmill this morning and thinking about our discussion today, I thought about this, that when we go on an airplane and they say if we lose cabin pressure, put your mask on first and then assist others with their mask. And so I think that's the same thing with the cup situation. If I don't have oxygen, if I don't have something in my cup to pour out, if I'm not happy myself, how can I give happiness to someone else? Now, then the other thing I thought of, because I do a lot of thinking and downloading when I'm on the treadmill.
That's me in the shower.
Me too, with the shower. The other thing I thought of is that was so unfair of me to expect my husband to make me happy. I actually made myself unhappy by expecting him to make me happy. But let me tell you what I mean by that. The goal is always changing with me. And I don't think I'm any different from anybody else. I might be a little bit more cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs than most. But in general, the goal is always changing. And what I mean by that is at one time, I loved fruit cups. And my husband would bring me a fruit cup home. Well, I started getting a little too hippie and I said, I got to cut these fruit cups out. And so I told him, I said, look, I'm going on a diet. Don't bring me any more fruit cups. He went out again and brought me a fruit cup. And I said, okay, I'm going to eat it this time. But when he continued to bring them, because that's what was used to make me happy. Now I'm telling you that don't make me happy no more. What is a man to do?
That's fact right there. Same thing with my husband. Yeah, we went through a period of that too when I started to get real heavy, and I was like, "Oh, this is too much." And so I pulled back. And before I would give him so much response when he made homemade cookies, homemade chocolate cake, all these homemade things. I would get so like little girl excited where I was like, "Oh my god, thank you so much! I love," and he loved it. Like he loved that kind of praise. And so then I pull back on wanting to eat that stuff. And at first he was taking it personal, like, you don't want my stuff anymore. Did my cooking skills change? So he was making it like about him. And I'm like, dude, it's not about you. I swear, it's me. Like, look at my body. And he's like, I love you exactly how you are. And I'm like, but I don't love me how I am. So I need to get smaller for me. So yeah, that could be a real challenge for a lot of couples. And men are very interesting because, like, for women, we can juggle a lot of different things. We can juggle a lot of different personality types. We're one way for being a mom, and we're a different one for being at the job and all these things. And so for a guy, when they know what works, they'll just keep doing that. Same thing when they're in the bedroom. It's like they just keep doing it because they know it works. And all of us need adventure, and we need to spice it up, and we do grow as humans. So our likes and dislikes are going to change over the years. And I think for all couples, we need to have conversations around all this stuff. Don't you think, Lucille? I feel like we need to talk about it, like, I don't know, every month, maybe every couple of months, and not wait like years where you're way beyond dissatisfied and frustrated, and you're blaming your partner, and you've got bitterness and resentment, and you don't want to even have sex with them. I mean, don't let it go too long, right, Lucille?
Absolutely. Gail.
Well, I had a question for you ladies. In terms of your husband who kept bringing what you no longer wanted, do you think it would have helped if you'd given your husbands an alternative? Okay, well, I'm not eating fruit cups there. Can you just bring me some oranges on the way home? Similarly, well, Heather would have been in a different situation because he would have had to find something else to cook. But it is hard. It is hard. And I think when males find out what we love, they're so happy that, oh, well, this is what I can do. And then, as Heather is saying, it's hard then for them to figure out, okay, well, she's not doing this anymore. She doesn't like this. What do I do next? And I have learned too that discussions about weight are very interesting. I think I am 400 pounds. The person knows I'm 400 pounds, but they don't want to hurt my feelings. Oh, you're so lovely. I love you just the way you are. But I'm 400 pounds. Really? So, it's all this stuff. Marriage is not easy. It is not easy.
You can,
and
yeah.
That is why I think it's so then easy for us to fall into the trap, because it is a trap of thinking, you know what, I'm going through all this stuff. It's the other person's responsibility to make me happy because I'm not even able to make myself happy. And I think that's the question. Am I happy? No. What do I do to make me happy? I have to sit down and ask myself that question. And I have to find the answer for me. But it's getting to that question.
That's a great comment. I love that.
Sometimes we don't spend enough time asking ourselves that question because as women, we're such amazing givers, and we want to make everyone around us happy, that we don't take that time to slow down and really get to know ourselves so that we can even communicate that with other people.
Absolutely. I love what you said there. You asked the question, is there some kind of way I could have communicated, hey, instead of bringing this, because I still want you to bring me something, but maybe give the suggestion on what he could bring. And I think that's a valid point. That's something that I definitely hadn't thought of. I just can't eat the fruit cups anymore. But that's a good question. And something I believe you said, I can't remember which one of you said it. I keep writing stuff down as the thoughts come, and I told y'all my brain be going 100 miles an hour. Wanting to make someone happy, being a giver, absolutely. That was me. I wanted to just I like for anyone who's around me. I want to make you happy. If you're down, come on, lighten up. I need you to smile. I need you to be happy. And so I'm running around trying to make, my spouse happy. And he's very simple. It don't really take much to make him happy. Now me on the other hand, complicated me, uh it takes a few things and a few of the right things. And that's where we learned how to do the love languages and stuff like that. And so I could understand and communicate to him how I view love or how I receive love, what I interpret as love. And in turn, that makes me happy, puts those deposits into the emotional bank account, if you would. And knowing how he shows love, which is the way he wants to receive it, that now, okay, it's not just him spending money on stuff. That's the way he shows love, and seeing that. So I love this conversation. And anybody who is in the audience who want to, I'm just going to reset the room just a little bit. The question we're talking about today is it your spouse's job to make you happy? So if anybody wants to come up to the stage and comment, feel free to raise your hand and I can bring you up. And it would be no problem. We would love to hear from you. But just to continue on in the conversation that we're having, I did a survey in a Facebook group that I'm a part of that is married couples. And I put that question into there and man, I got over 300 responses. And the responses were mostly no, you need to make your own self happy. But and those were women and most of the men too. But there were a few guys that were like, well, if she don't make me happy, do she want somebody else to make me happy? And so I was just like, well, no. And I commented a few times, but the administrators of that group kind of slowed it down because the comments were coming in quick and fast. So they had to kind of slow that thread down a little bit. And so I couldn't really respond to everybody that I wanted to respond to and get a little bit more clarity on what some of the comments were and everything. But the way I took it was that it's not my spouse's job to make me happy. It's not my job to make him happy, but it definitely is my job to not make him unhappy. If that makes sense. Like if I know that if I do XYZ, that's going to contribute to unhappiness, then definitely I don't want to do that. So, any thoughts, Heather or Gail?
Well, I love what you're saying too. Thank you. And thanks for having this conversation. By the way, you guys share this out onto your profile, share it with your network. I think you do that by hitting either the three dots at the top or there's a share button at the bottom to help us grow out this space, because these conversations need to be had more often, because a lot of times people will feel dissatisfied in their relationship and they won't really have anyone to go talk to, or they're embarrassed to go talk or hire a coach or go to a therapist, and they feel like, oh, we'll just figure it out by ourselves. And then years go by and nothing's figured out, and now there's addictions and coping mechanisms and just different things that can come up. So please share this out. This is going to be a really good space for a lot of people. And can you repeat your question? Because that was at the top of my brain right now about sharing the room so more people can come in.
Yes, I understand. So I was saying, it's not my job to make my spouse happy. It's not his job to make me happy. I need to make my own self happy. He needs to make his own self happy.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
So we're married almost 22 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We were sexless for 12 of those years. Okay, this is why I'm so passionate helping couples, because we actually experienced a real story of having no sex for 12 years. And during that time, I would try and figure out what was happening, and I would have these conversations with my husband, and then he would feel pressure, and then that pressure made it so he didn't want to have sex even more. And so I had to learn the difference between healthy communication and nagging. The other thing I had to learn is the importance of not blaming him for not doing what I wanted or what I needed. And so in those moments, I've really learned how to, instead of looking outward, I started to look more inward. And I think that's what a lot of us can do in these moments of frustration is calm yourself down and really look around and figure out what you can be grateful for right now, because there's always something to be grateful for. And if you can get into the energy of gratitude, that blame and resentment and bitterness towards your spouse a lot of times will disappear, because sometimes we make mountains out of molehills, like these little things, we make them so big in our head, and the more that we're thinking about them, the bigger it feels and the bigger it seems. And then we're like, oh, we're just going to get a divorce, it's not working out. Well, really, maybe it is working out, but you need better communication, or you need, to figure out how to fulfill yourself, and not, like this topic today, not look to your spouse to fulfill everything that you can actually do yourself. So that would be what I have to add to that.
All right, thank you. Gail, do you have a comment?
I don't really have a comment. I don't have a valuable comment. I could only share my life experience, which is my husband and I were married. My ex-husband and I were married for 12 years. And then we got divorced. And then we went back together like 3 years later, because we realized there were things that I could have done to make it work. He could have done to make it work. We went back together for another 10 years and it still didn't work. So I am not sure if it, one of the reasons could have been how we viewed who was responsible for making who happy. Or like Heather said, maybe, there was so much baggage from the past and we didn't go to therapy. We were just trying to make it work. Or maybe, maybe my ex-husband felt, I just here for the ride, There's so many different moving pieces, but I think it goes back to the mentality of the person. And I always go back to me. So what did I feel? How did I feel about myself first, before I even got to, okay, so this is how I feel about myself. What do I want now to get from this relationship with this other person? And then how are we going to move forward together? So sometimes, I think Heather mentioned it, if you don't have these preliminary conversations and you don't know the person's goals or what they want to do, where they want to go, and you're on two different paths, it is not going to work. Without communication, it's not going to work. And it's okay to say it's not working. It's that, I find that's okay as well. But I think that's my contribution as the person who's divorced and not happily married.
I got you. Thank you for that, Gail. So this brings up the question then. The next thing I have written down then is, if I make someone else responsible for my happiness, am I giving away my power? Am I saying that, I depend on you to make me happy, and if you're not going to make me happy, then I'm not going to be happy? And Heather, I know you said you had to drop off at a certain time, and I understand that. So feel free to drop off whenever you need to.
Yeah, probably like a couple more minutes, but man, that's a tough question. I'm thinking I'll let Gail go first on that one.
I knew you were going to say that, Heather. Lucille, yes, I'd have to say yes. For some people, that is how it is. But I don't know if I'd be so drastic to say give up my power. I just think I'm so focused on that person having to make me happy that I relinquish what I could do to make myself happy. So if that means, yes, giving up your power, I guess so. But I don't think people view it from that perspective. They're just fixated on, you know what, you're my spouse. You're supposed to make me happy. Or we're in this relationship. Yeah, you are supposed to make me happy. We know the answer is no. Technically, it's no, but so many people seem to live it as though it is a yes. Unless you guys have found that it's different. I find that a lot of people I know seem to take it for granted. Yes, this other person is supposed to make me happy. Show me they love me and do whatever.
You're right with that. I think a lot of people are feeling that way. We have someone who has come to the stage that has a comment, Sandra, and I'm not going to butcher your last name. Go ahead and unmute yourself because I hate for people to mess up my name. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us what you do and give us your comment or question, whichever.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Sandra Adeyeyebelu. I'm Nigerian, living in Nigeria. I'm a media practitioner and also a gender and mental wellness advocate. Okay, so I love the fact that I came across this conversation today. Thank you so much for this. Thank you. And I love the dialogue, between all women here. It's really interesting, the points of views. So I just want to weigh in a little, my own thoughts and also question. So the topic today is it your spouse's job to make you happy? I want to play the devil's advocate and say yes, and I will tell you why. So individually, I think most of what I've heard on today's call seem to be projecting the individuality of everyone, your personality. Okay, I'm supposed to make myself happy and so on. So I'm asking the question of what's that person's role in your life? Okay, so I'm getting in a relationship with someone who would not have a job in my life, and the person is in my life. Why? Okay, so that's one. Then two, I am asking this. I'm married and I have a child, and I know that certain expectations most times, because from where I hear a lot of people talking from, we don't want to be disappointed with a lot of expectations on our partners, right? So we play it safe by saying, hey, it's not his job to make me happy. It's not her job, But hey, it is that person's responsibility to whoever they have sworn to be with to make that person happy. Now, this is not saying that there is no place for self-love and boundaries. I heard Gail talk about because you love me, you do whatever I say. No, I don't agree to that. I have a right to say no to things even when I love you, and that does not make me love you less. So I think we need to balance this conversation and talk about the place of individuality, where self-love, self-care comes in, and then still talk about where the role of the person in your life, the role they play as being in your life as your partner. Because I would not get into a business relationship with someone I don't trust or I don't expect stuff from, I expect you to come on board with something, to contribute to something. And my happiness is part of it. So I am not going to play it low and say, hey, no, it's not your job to make me happy. So, hey, you can go ahead and, do whatever. I'm going to make myself happy and so on. No, you're in my life. You're in my space. We're doing life together. So I think it's your job to make me happy when I'm not happy. So I'm just, coming on board. My question, the question I asked earlier. And yeah, this is my thought right now on this. So please, hey, I'm free. You can butcher me if you want.
No, Sandra, I love that. And I wrote it down. What's the person's role in my life? So yes, and let me go ahead and say this. Gail mentioned that she is divorced after several years of marriage. Heather is still married. I think she said 22 years. I've been married 37 years, and in a few weeks it'll be 38 years. And for a long time, I want to say probably like the first, probably 7 years or so. That was, oh, thank you for the heart, Sandra. That was the thing, is that I just kept going back and forth with, I think, making myself unhappy because I was saying I had these expectations and I really didn't have the confidence of myself to really communicate all of the expectations I had. Uh, just really, like I said, expecting things to work out. I didn't grow up in a home where I saw my mother and my father work things out together. So I didn't really have any real good, realistic expectations for how this thing was gonna go. Just other than we just gonna make it work. Love should just overrule, we just got love, no money and nothing. And we just go work it out. But I think I made myself unhappy by thinking and placing all of the expectations on him to make me happy. And the reason I say that is because we don't know the intent of the other person. And he doesn't know my intent. And that's one of the things that I tell women when I work with them, when I work with wives, is to assume good intent. That goes back to somebody was saying earlier about being positive and focusing on this. And so I don't see it as that I'm taking the onus off of my husband by saying no, that it's not his job to make me happy. Yes, he plays a role in it, but I really can't experience happiness, in my opinion, unless I'm happy myself. And a lot of that was the inside inner work. And so that's why my answer to the question is no, it's not his job to make me happy. But I would say it is his job not to make me unhappy, if that makes sense. Gail, I see you come off of mute. You got to.
I agree, Lucille, but I have a question in turn for Sandra, because I have learned happiness looks and feels different for different people. Before you assume or think that your spouse, his or her job is to make you happy, you need to find out what does happiness look like for you. Lucille and Heather talked about the fruit cups and the cookies, and then they wanted something differently. So you are heading into the relationship with this person, and they should make you happy. But how? Like, what do you want them to do? What's your happiness? Is your happiness going to change? Is it going to stay the same? And I think that was the point I was trying to make earlier, in that we come into these relationships with misconceived stuff, and then we learn, crap, I've got this all wrong. And then we have to step back and ask ourselves the hard questions, like, okay, so I'm in the relationship. What do I want from it? What makes me happy? And then you have to find a way to express what you need in a way that the person understands and can relate to as well. But as I said, this is just my personal experience. Sometimes it has to start with you. But sometimes what you think the situation is not what the situation is, if that makes sense. Lucille is the professional, so she can explain that better than I could say. But what does happiness look like? It's okay to say your spouse's job is to make you happy, but what makes you happy? Is it going to the farm? Is it eating the fruit cup? Is it going for a drive? Is it somebody cooking? What? You need to know what.
I love that. I love that.
Yes. I just wanted to come in here because I don't know what phase. I think Lucille will be able to, relate to this because she's been longer in this. But I think everybody, even from when we were 5 years old, meeting people in kindergarten and then saying, that's my friend. That's my friend. Because that person struck something. You connected to that person, right? There are things that person ticked. The person made you feel differently than every other person. You felt welcome. So I think if you already got in the marriage and you're asking this question, I think you already made a mistake before even getting in that boat. Because those are questions. That's the reason we have something called courtship, relationship. So I have the time, or you have the time, to have determined or decided that, hey, I am comfortable with this person or I'm not. I watch a TV show, one reality TV show like that, where they, hook people up and tell them to, go on dates and find out if they are okay with each other. This is not to say that there is some perfect person out there, but did this person tick your boxes? If I have to go, because one of the things I did before, taking this big step called marriage, because it's for life, of course. I don't know about any other person, but this is something, it's a big decision. And yes, things change, life changes, your decision can change. But I think it's one of the biggest decisions we have to make as humans. So if you decide, before you decide to go on this kind of journey, I think it's required that you do the same way you research your papers, you research the job or whatever. Most people don't really take time to research this. How do I feel around this person and so on? So that is normally what would have classified your happiness, to say, okay, now I'm getting in this boat with this person. And yes, that person has to keep, that energy for me. If that energy becomes contaminated, that's when it becomes toxic. Right? So that's what I mean by when I say, yes, my partner has to make me happy, because I already checked these things. I know myself. I understand what I need in my space, so that's where individuality comes in. I already checked myself. I'm already whole. I confirm that this is who I am. So even when I'm sorry, this is not, I'm not trying to go religious, but really, I just need to quote this just to, support what I'm saying. When the Bible says the two become one, they come together, and become one. So these two people from different backgrounds and whatever would have to come together. He is different. I am different. We are different human beings. But when we come together, the energy has to sync. If that energy does not sync and we cannot find a way to make it sync, we would always quarrel. Even you and your siblings, you will quarrel, right? So these things happen. But there should be ways for us to be able to sync and make the energy livable for us. That is happiness. I'm not talking about money here. And in fact, most of us agree that some of the poorest people in the world are so happy because they have family around and so on. So that home, that energy, is it safe to live in or is it toxic? So that is basically, that's the base in which I am talking from. If my partner makes my space contaminated, toxic, hey, he is failing in his job, period.
Well, you bring up a valid...
I have another question for Sandra. These are all very great points. This is my final question for you, Sandra. So you do your research, your due diligence. This person takes all of your boxes, you get married. Then 10 years later, 5 years, whatever, then this person starts to physically abuse you, or they have an affair, a long-standing affair with somebody. Yeah. What happens then? Is your spouse's job still to make you happy?
He has contaminated the energy, like I said. Then it becomes.
So do you stay together, or what do you do?
You can leave. That is a choice. The person already broke the agreement. It is your choice now to decide to either, settle or move on. Okay. See, I'm not judging. So I'm not judging anyone.
No. I'm just asking because I've learned that life is not black and white. Things happen. Yes. So I just wanted to be clear what you were, what you were saying. Because yes, you can do your research, and a lot of people do their research. But then that's why I said people change.
Yeah.
People change. Life changes. A lot changes. Yes, please.
Absolutely.
No judgments here.
I love this conversation. Is it your spouse's job to make you happy? And we are going to, because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And we're almost at almost 12 o'clock. This was set for 30 minutes, and we've gone into 45 minutes. So I understand if people have meetings and they have to drop off or anything like that. So I just wanted to let you know that, give you the time and reset the room. But to your point, Sandra, you said one of the biggest decisions we make is picking a partner to do life with. Yes. Okay. I didn't live with my husband before I married him. I think if I had I wouldn't have married him. And the reason I say that is this. I am a neat person. I like for things to be in their certain places. Everything has a place. I hate looking for stuff, and that's why I kind of have everything in its place. Now, when I say neat, I'm not the person that goes around dusting every day. I'm not OCD like that or anything like that. I see you, Curtis, with the claps. But my husband is the exact opposite of that. Now, he is the sweetest guy. Let me tell you, he is so sweet. He has to be. He has to be because he is the exact opposite of that. He never knows where anything is. He never puts anything back in its proper place. I can go in the kitchen and wash dishes, and I don't like stuff being put in the sink after I wash the dishes. And he'll go in there after me and put something in the sink, and it just drives me crazy. I'd be like, the dishwasher's right here. Why don't you put this in the dishwasher? But the way his mind works, he don't see it. So I'm just saying, I did my due diligence. I married the most upright, upstanding, sweetest man that I knew at the time. So yes, I did my due diligence. But baby, once we said the I do's and had to cohabitate together, that was something different. That was not what I was expecting. And it's not what I even signed up for. So anyway, and I thought for a number of years that I was the only one going through this because I'd see everyone at church or we'd be out together as couples and stuff and they look so happy and everything. And I'm looking at him like, why aren't you like them? I don't know what those people are dealing with at home, but it was a conversation I had with a hairdresser and she let me know. She'd been married probably 45 years at the time. She gave me permission that I didn't have to give up my marriage because I wasn't being satisfied or being made happy in this area of my life. Because she said, oh, my husband do that? And I looked at her like, what? She said, yeah, I don't worry about it. Whatever I'm going to clean up, I just clean it up and go about my business. And it was at that point I was like, oh, I don't have to do this. He don't have to change because I just wanted him to change. I wanted him to do the right thing, which was my way. But it also made me realize that I'm not perfect either. Because to be honest, I make my husband late everywhere we go. And I know that works his last nerve. But I'm just saying that to you, Sandra. I did my due diligence. But what I'm talking about here is not anything toxic because my man, he's a sweet guy. And Danielle, I'm welcoming you up to the stage. I'm going to ask you to come off of mute in just a minute and give us your question or your comment. I did my due diligence, but what I got was not what I thought I was getting. Come on, Danielle. Am I saying it right? Danielle, introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Hi, it's Danielle.
Danielle.
From Trinidad and Tobago. Yes. Are you hearing me clearly?
Fantastic. What's your comment?
Yeah, so I wanted to add to the conversation today and just a few things. Is it your spouse's job to make you happy? I would say it's your spouse's job to contribute to your happiness because happiness is it's internally driven. And I like what Gail says. It starts with what does happiness look like for you as an individual, first and foremost? Where do you, that's where we start. What's your value base in regards to your happiness? So to say your spouse is totally responsible, no, we must take responsibility for our happiness. And that's my thoughts on it. And they can contribute to the happiness. More so because we change over time as human beings. So I may start off at a 10 and something may happen. And then if I place my happiness in that individual and depending on what is happening with that individual at that moment, it will affect me if I lodge myself on their happiness. So I would say they contribute to it, but we ought to take total responsibility for our part in the relationship to ensure that we remain stable in that sense. And yeah, because we change over time. As human beings, things happen. And so the only defining factor is how we respond in any given situation and where our values are placed. So that's my contribution.
Well, I love that. I love that how we respond to it. That it is our own responsibility. Yes, I think that we were talking about that a little earlier before you came on, and we can go back to that point of I phrased it as power, of giving my power to someone else if I say it's their responsibility to make me happy. But I like the way you phrased it when you say, yes, they should contribute. And I absolutely expect my husband to definitely contribute to my happiness. But it's going to be, I guess, kind of like that cherry on top from what I'm doing. Because I'll say this, after 37 years of marriage, and I finally got a clue probably in maybe year 7, 8 or something like that, when from having conversations with some other married women and finding out the real deal on some things. But really, once I began to give the power back to myself, that I was responsible for making my own self happy, that's really when I began to blossom and was able, I don't know, I'm not going to speak for my husband, but I would imagine from some of the conversations that we've had that that's when I was really able to pour out an overflow of happiness to him, because I in turn was taking care of my own needs. I was able to communicate what my needs were and move in that way, if that makes sense. Anybody else have any comments?
No, I agree, Lucille. After you've been with a person for a while as well, you get different little golden nuggets of wisdom, those little insights that come over time. And time is a great educator. And then you can work differently. And then, of course, during your marriage, it's all about self-revelation, not only things that pertain to your spouse, things that pertain to you. That's also very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we are going to go ahead and close out the room today. Thank you so much for participating, Gail, and for all of you in the room. Thank you so much for coming in for this conversation. We'll have another one in a couple of weeks. Hopefully you'll come back for that. I see your claps, Lillian. Thank you. And but I want to be cognizant of your time. I see your heart, Gail. And I'll give you back the rest of the time of your day. I hope you have a great day and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for joining either for the live audio room or for the replay. We hope you receive value from the conversation today. Please connect with Heather and sign up for her upcoming masterclass. Also, please connect with Gail as she shares valuable content around branding, corporate training, and her executive coaching services. Until next time, do your best. Let God do the rest. Have a fabulous day.